Joined now by Republican Congressman Chris Collins of New York, who, as you know, was the first member of Congress to back Trump back during the campaign. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Katie.
It's wonderful to see you. You saw Stephanie a moment ago surrounded by supporters there in Phoenix, Arizona, ahead of Donald Trump's rally there tonight. There are a lot of protests expected. The mayor of Phoenix is saying, don't come to our town. Don't come right now. The tensions are just too inflamed. They are expecting some large-scale protests. This comes on the heels of Charlottesville and all of the controversy surrounding the president's comments about that. They were talking at one point about potentially pardoning Joe Arpaio, the president. We're hearing, though, that he's not going to be doing that tonight. Given that he said that the country will heal from Charlottesville over the weekend, I'm trying to understand how a campaign-style rally in a red state and a town that a lot of voters out there really like the president, how is that going to help the country heal?
Well, Katie. It's the president has been calling for unity. Let's face it, for 9 months since the morning he was announced as our next president of the United States, the left lost the election. I would use the term they've lost their minds ever since. They've been protesting now for 9 months, certainly 7 months since he was sworn into office. Too many have said he's not our president. Donald J. Trump is president for all Americans. He's president of the United States. He's commander-in-chief. He's dealing with Afghanistan. He's dealing with North Korea. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's assembled the best cabinet that's ever been assembled in history. Successful, accomplished individuals serving America, helping make America great again. The president can do what he's doing. He can call for unity. Under First Amendment rights, people will protest. As was reported earlier just a minute ago on your show, his supporters, myself included, do give him an A for what we've accomplished in Congress and the number of bills he signed into law. But it's falling on deaf ears for some of those who will be protesting, I'm sure, today at the rally. But the president enjoys rallies. His supporters want to get out and show that they are behind them. And while the left is not and the country is divided, all anyone can do is their best, and that's what Donald J. Trump as president is doing, calling for unity, respecting First Amendment rights, and saying we have no place for violence at rallies, and that's not directed at any one group, but it's peaceful demonstrations is what the First Amendment is all about.
Congressman, you say the president has called for unity, and he's certainly called for unity, but can you tell me one thing he's done to reach out to the other side?
Well, when you say reach out to the other side, it starts, it's a two-way street.
But what has he done to reach out? What legislation has he proposed? What blue state has he gone to? What blue city has he gone to? What Democrats has he met with in private to try and get things done? Just tell me one thing he's done to reach out to the other side in this country.
Well, he has had Democrat senators into the White House time and again early on, talking about health care, attempting with an olive branch to reach out.
In what way did he reach out on health care? Give me one way he reached out on health care other than a conversation.
Well, I mean, it starts with conversation, and he was shut down immediately by Senator Schumer and the others in saying that they weren't going to support anything called a repeal of Obamacare. They'd worked to put more money into the individual marketplace, but that was it. At which point he had no choice but to turn into the Republicans, to Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. And we in the House sent a pretty darn good repeal and replace. It didn't get through the Senate. But it takes two people, and Senator Schumer has locked down when it comes to helping this president.
Senator Schumer said he would work with him on infrastructure. That hasn't come up.
Well, we're going to be getting there, but also let's remember Senator Schumer then said he won't support private-public partnerships, P3s, which we've all said might be as much as a third of the infrastructure project.
Why has he not gone to...
I'm personally hopeful.
Why? Okay, other than that, why has he not gone to a blue state? Why has he not reached out to Democratic voters or independent voters or voters that didn't vote for him?
Well, I was with him on Air Force One down to Long Island for a great speech, as he's again focused on law and order, and in this case on MS-13. The streets were lined
with
with his
district
supporters.
where the voters
everywhere.
voted for him. They voted for him in that county, and he called for the police there to
Well, it's a blue
rough
state.
up.
I mean,
they called for police there, a blue city and a blue state. Let's put it that way. And he called for police there to rough up those who are arrested. Something that he had a ton of pushback from.
No.
And then secondly,
No,
why is he not
see,
going to Charlottesville? After all, as he said, he's got a house there.
Well, I'm certainly not in charge of his schedule, but let me tell you, I was there for that speech, and he made a comment that was then taken completely out of context when he talked about the absolute deplorable behavior, inhuman behavior of MS-13, and he made the comment at some point, when if somebody's getting in a police car, maybe you're not going to put your hand on their head. That wasn't calling for the police to rough them up. It was said in a context, and that was taken completely, utterly out of context. When he said it, I knew exactly what the left media would claim.
It wasn't the left media.
Later did, but
police chiefs around the country said, don't do that. I mean, it wasn't the left media.
Well, it was taken out of context, Katie, and I can tell you it was a comment, and I knew exactly how it would be played in the press, and it was. But if you weren't there, I can tell you that was not the thrust of his speech. He was directing his comments on the absolute inhuman behavior of MS-13 butchering young girls, trying to take over, all of the gangs across the United States in just, to terrorize our neighborhoods. So it was in that context that he somewhat glibly said, maybe we don't have to put a hand on their head.
Should the president be talking glibly in that way? Should the president be talking glibly in that way?
He was making a point to the police that were there, and clearly it was taken out of context after the fact.
Well, given how he is so frequently, as you say, taken out of context, do you think he might watch his words a little bit more?
We do all have to be careful of our words, and the president, speaks very plainly, whether it's through his tweets or otherwise. In some cases, there's been clarifications made, and the press won't give him a break. He has certainly never supported David Duke. He's condemned neo-Nazism, white supremacists, and yet people keep going back as though that's not the case. Because he didn't use the exact phraseology that they wanted in the first speech. And then when he finally clarifies it, they won't give him a break on that either.
What do you think, though? David Duke came out and applauded him for his comments. I mean, that's got to be disconcerting to anybody in the Republican Party or to the president himself when a white supremacist comes out and says, you know what, I really like what you said.
Well, David Duke is not someone that any one of us supports. The president does not. He has condemned them, along with neo-Nazism and white supremacists. You can only do your best. Donald J. Trump, president, is doing his best. People want to take it out of context. They want to try to say that somehow now David Duke is one of, is somebody that speaks for the president, which is absolutely not the case.
Well, nobody said that.
I know the president is very frustrated. As he's doing what he can for America, and as he pointed out with Afghanistan, we're not in the nation building, but by God, he's going after the terrorism. He's going after ISIS. He's called on Pakistan, who we give a lot of aid to, that there's going to be, it's got to come back the other way. They cannot harbor the terrorists. The president, as commander-in-chief, is focused where he should be on peace in the Middle East, but also making sure we're taking the fight to ISIS, looking out for North Korea. And all anyone can do is do their best. And I would ask the left, who I know were very disappointed when Hillary Clinton was not elected, give the guy a break. He is our president for the next 3.5 years. He's doing what he can, whether it's, again, Afghanistan or North Korea. He's been dealt the cards he has. And when he said to work behind the desk in the Oval Office is a very sobering experience, very different than standing in front of the desk. He takes the job seriously. He's got great advisors. Clearly, General Mattis had a major part in what the speech was yesterday about what we have to do to fight terrorism in Afghanistan, and call on Pakistan to do their part, which, frankly, they haven't.
Congressman Collins, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Katie. Have a great day.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.